today what I want to do is sort of talk about how I view training and how I view everything from the ground up, because how I assess athletes and performance is from the ground up. How are they interacting with the ground? Because that's how we move around the face of the earth. But every workout and every session that I do starts from the ground, progresses to feet, starts slow, progresses to fast, starts simple, progresses to complex. And that's the strategy I follow in everything I do. And you'll see that littered through every workout I write. But for me, it's like the warm-up is the most important part of every workout. We're building layers to the workout. So what starts out on the ground progresses to unloaded on the feet, which then progresses to a little bit more intensity or a little bit more complexity, etc., etc., etc. So there's a progression through every session. There's a progression through every week, a progression through every block of training. And that kind of skill acquisition that we can take from ground-based movements onto our dynamic warm-up, which starts on the feet, into our drills, into our sprints, or into our lifts, etc., etc., I think is one of the most important and overlooked parts of training. I think one of the biggest telltale signs for me when I'm observing another coach is what do they do as a warm-up, how do they coach it? And a lot of the time is that you'll see coaches say, right, just go through the warm-up, I'm going to go and get set up for the squats, the deadlifts, or whatever it might be. And what that's telling the athlete or the client subconsciously is, I don't care about the warm-up, so you shouldn't either. Okay, for me, and this is something that I took from Joel when I worked at Performance RX, is that everything matters. So if I'm going to ask you, the client, to do a cat camel, I want to make sure you're doing it well. I want to make sure that you're taking away something from the cat camel that's going to lead into another movement. It's getting an understanding of how I flex the spine, how I extend the spine, how we coordinate that movement throughout the range, and how we develop that over time. Because everything's a skill. So what we're trying to do is make the skill easier to learn. And that's where the ground-based mobility comes in. It's like, take the time to utilize the ground-based portion of the workout to access more ranges of motion, to get a deeper understanding of how your body moves, so that then when we get onto our feet and we're going through some dynamic warm-up or some more dynamic movements, we have a bit more context and a bit more understanding of what we're trying to achieve there. So for me, it's a really important tool and a really important part of the workout to start integrating movement, start getting athletes and clients to think about movement a little bit differently. What you soon realize, or what I realize, is just because someone is a professional athlete or a high-level athlete doesn't mean that they have the basics nailed. And just to give a bit more of an example here I'm showing you me coaching 3 fighters and, all performing the cat camel, and they're all performing it with a slightly different strategy. And each of them are achieving the movement or trying to achieve the movement in a very different way. And so everyone needs to be coached through this slightly uniquely and slightly individualized. And if you look at Jack in the middle there, is that Jack is a professional fighter, currently 7-0, but he really struggles to coordinate spinal flexion and spinal extension. He really sort of lacks the understanding of how to achieve that. And that's something that we're going to have to work on over time. And it's something that I sort of say here is that with all of this stuff, I try to encourage it, not force it. So he doesn't give a crap about the cat camels, right? From a personal level. He's just trying to get in and become a better athlete and a better fighter. And for me, the way I look at this is that if he's at the level he is already without any real understanding of how to utilize his spine to produce force, then by giving him a bit more freedom in range of motion, allows him to access a little bit more from the hips, allows him to get a little bit more as he sort of turns his punches over. And it's all going to lead to everything, right? So understanding that the whole point of all of this is to make people move better, feel better, and ultimately perform better. So it's not to overlook the warm-up in favor of the meat and potatoes of the workout, the sexy stuff, right? The squats, the jumps, the power development. Yes, it's important, but you don't want to lump a Ferrari engine into a Fiat chassis, right? You're just going to tear that thing apart. And I think one of the big things that, again, in my career, I've overlooked it for periods of time. We do naturally gravitate towards the heavy, sexy stuff, and we undervalue the importance of just good quality movement. And that's where the ground-based part of the workout comes in, because for me, I've kind of stopped calling it the warm-up. It's just the beginning of the workout. The workout progresses from the ground to standing, low intensity to high intensity. And I think that's something that we want to make sure that we take away from this, right? It's a real good opportunity to start coaching movements, to make sure people have access and an understanding of what we're going to ask them to do when they get onto their feet, how I want their body to be positioned, where is their center of mass, and how do we transition through those movements and free up ranges of motion. Because I think that's something that I've overlooked in the past, and I think a lot of people overlook now. But moving well is the foundation of performing well. And I don't care how fast your car is if it's got flat tires. So this is something that I think I always try and nail home with everyone I work with is, really take your time and invest some energy into nailing the basics of human movement. Whether that's going through your own ground-based mobility or you utilize my ground-based mobility, is that there's always development to be made and not to be complacent in how we do that and how we perform there. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. And for those of you that have downloaded my LIFT program, which is my 3 times a week online training group, thank you. I've been getting great feedback from that, especially on the warm-up and stuff. People are just feeling better and moving better. So if you're interested in maybe checking that out, I'll put the link in the description below. Please feel free to like, subscribe, tickle that algorithm for me. And I look forward to seeing you next week.